No fancy intros today. We're going to be replacing this electric power steering rack in a 2011 Chevy Cruze. I looked through YouTube and I noticed that nobody had a video on it, so we're going to make one. All right, so Alex and I have the cradle removed from the 2011 Chevy Cruze to do the power steering rack and power steering motor. I'll give you a quick overview of what we did, how we did it. Number one on the list, unhook the battery. Number two, run your seatbelt through your steering wheel and lock it down. That way your steering wheel doesn't move. The last thing you want is that steering wheel spinning around and breaking the clock spring. Then you can come in here. This went on the steering rack right there. This 11mm bolt held it together, held it pinched down. We've got the inner fender here. Then you'll come under here. When the cradle's in, you'll want to unplug these harnesses from the cradle. See where they push in? So get all that removed. You'll have to obviously remove your tie rods. You'll have to remove your ball joint pinch bolt. Get your ball joints pulled out. You've got your exhaust. So this is what it's gonna look like when you pull it off. I had to cut these because they were so rusted. And then that's the flange there at the motor. O2 sensor unplugged. So from the underside, this is what you got. This bracket had to be unbolted. Two 10mm bolts. I used a ratcheting wrench. You've got a couple plugs here. This is for the O2 sensor, I believe, up here. We had to unplug that. Those plates just came off with the cradle once we undid those cradle bolts. And that's what you got. There's our flange that I had to cut the bolts off of. I'm gonna have to drive those out before I put the exhaust back on. You've got to undo your sway bar end links. You want to unbolt those. Then you've got a transmission mount at the rear and at the front. As you can see, Alex and I didn't put the brace across because there is a large transmission mount here on this side. When we removed those big bolts, nothing really shifted around, so I wasn't real concerned about holding it up. Here's the old power steering rack. This is where that pinch bolt went through on the inside of the car. You've got 3 plugs on the module. This one's a pain. I wound up having to unbolt the motor so I could turn it up and get this plug undone. That was the only way I could do it. I know it's beat up. I was trying to remove the motor. It would not come off. So you want to take your tie rods off. So this is just held on to the cradle with a bolt and a nut. And the same at this end. Once you have the cradle off, stand it up. If you've got a helper to hold a wrench on it, you can just zip those bolts out and be ready to go. Tools wise, not a big deal. Various 13, 15, 18mm sockets. So tools that didn't take, you could do it by hand. We use the impact and the cordless ratchet and stuff. So that's where you're at. Not a lot to it. So when Alex and I removed the cradle, we had a jack on either side and we unbolted it and we just lowered it down. It's not actually too bad. The worst part of it were those electric plugs. The rest of it really wasn't too bad. As you may have seen in our other video, the new power steering rack is supposed to be programmed with the car's VIN. We're gonna find out. I doubt it will work just because we plugged it in. I was hoping for some power steering and then maybe it wouldn't learn if it didn't have the VIN or something. I don't know, but we'll take it and get it programmed. My scan tool doesn't have the ability to rewrite a VIN or write a VIN, which is a bummer. It does for some vehicles, but it won't for this. So if you have any questions, if you're doing this job, leave a comment. I'll try to help you out as much as I can in the comment section. So there you go. The cradle, the rack's removed. We're waiting on the new one, and we'll check back in with you. All right, and that's it. If you need to install a power steering rack in your Chevy Cruze, that's about all it takes. You will have to go get it programmed. It's a thing. Thanks for watching.